When I see an entrepreneur that is growing and coming to us looking for capital, I routinely will ask, are they humble and hungry? When I say humble, I immediately think, are they teachable? When I say hungry, I am giving a nod to the grit. Are they going to work? Do they have a strong work ethic?
Welcome to the Character Effect, where real leaders leave a mark that lasts. Together, we spotlight the quiet power of integrity, grit, humility, and respect. In other words, character, and the people bold enough to lead with it. Welcome back to the Character Effect podcast. I'm your host, Dave Vaseleros, and here we spotlight leaders who prove that integrity, humility, and grit drive performance. Today, I'm joined by Bryan Doxford, the president and managing director of lending at the Grow America Fund. And you can find that at www.growamerica.org. It's a national small business lender that's focused on empowering entrepreneurs, small businesses who are often overlooked by traditional finance. They have heavy investment in community development. We're going to hear more about that from Bryan. We're also going to talk today about what really drives small business success from the point of view of someone who has worked alongside small businesses for decades, how character shows up in lending decisions. And that's something I think maybe not a lot of us have thought about. And of course, lessons that Bryan has learned as a lender and as a guide and a help for small business owners who they're trying to build something that lasts. So that's our episode overview. I'm excited to jump in. Bryan, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. And Bryan is sitting on the 19th floor.
19th floor.
Okay, in New York City, and he's overlooking some cool stuff. I am sitting on the second floor in Meridian, Idaho. My view is not as exciting as yours.
And you know my view because I was concerned that you could hear fire trucks down below or see the doctor's office out my window where there's periodically a vacant neighbor. So I was concerned about these things on behalf of you and the listeners.
That just drives ratings, so it's all good. We met through a mutual friend, Jens Thorsten, who I've known for, 15 years. How long have you known Jens?
8. Met in grad school, 2017.
We're not going to spend a lot of time on Jens, but I'd love your one impression of him as a human being.
One impression. Jens is smart. He's so smart that I couldn't quite understand what he was saying. I thought, yeah, you're right, because you're Jens.
That's my default position. Yes. Jens founds and runs Valhalla Business Advisors. He's been in the employee benefits world for forever. That's how I met him. He just does an amazing job. That's just so all of it. I'm sorry I'm pitching you, Jens, but hopefully you won't be too upset about it. If you're a small, mid-sized business, especially on the lending side of your credit union and others, give him a call. He's just super smart, knows the numbers, understands the business. Give him a try. All right, that was an unpaid advertisement for Jens Thorsten and Valhalla Business Advisors. Anyways, back to Bryan. I know, Bryan, you're like, come on, this is about me. We may not have heard before about Grow America Fund. Tell us what it is and what its value is. Give me the 2-minute pitch.
Sure. So Grow America is typically how we go to market. And under the Grow America umbrella, there are a couple of different CDFIs that we own and operate. One of those companies is Grow America Fund. So Grow America, parent company, economic development, that's what we've been doing for well over 50 years and really have been the authority in economic development. We administer lots of different programs. No market tax credit, low-income housing tax credits. We have been the voice of authority in all things teaching and training and education within the industry since the beginning. And then within our realm of expertise is lending to businesses. These are typically businesses on the margins of a conventional credit box. These are folks that may not be quite ready to go to their bank or credit union and get financing. Routinely, they start their journey with us and then ultimately grow into becoming bankable. We're typically that first step for many of them in that continuum of capital.
I'm really glad you brought up this point about teaching and training. Most people think of economic development as a financial transaction, right? You bring money to a business, they have to pay it back on certain terms, and you hope they grow and everybody's happy financially. But I think there's more to it than that. You mentioned this teaching and training. What does that mean? What are you doing? And is that part of your role? Do you have a team?
Yeah, so it's a great question. When I think about teaching and training, I think about it on two different fronts. On the one side, you have folks that have an interest in doing good. And certainly finance provides a vehicle to do good. A lot of what we have done as a company over the years is provide education to like-minded people in finance. They don't have to call themselves economic developers. They could be frontline bankers or fellow economic developers, but these are folks that want to understand how you use capital to solve problems. How do you provide the resources to businesses that they need to grow, to scale, to start, to have an exit? How do you provide capital to business owners that are thinking about buying their own commercial real estate versus paying rent? Economic development goes far beyond that. It's how do you solve the needs of a community that's growing, a community that's reinventing itself. We have an academy where we teach business owners. And I saw your eyebrows go up. My own personal feeling is that most business owners really do struggle because many of them, they're C less businesses, C and then less. And when I say C less, like most small businesses don't have a CFO. They have the owner who is de facto CEO, but they don't have a CFO or a CMO or a CSO. And then certainly many small businesses also do not have a board or advisory board. Where do they go for education? Where do they go when they have this idea they want to kick around? Part of what we provide through our academy is outlets to help businesses think about strategic growth and then kick around some ideas. So whether that be a classroom setting where we're working with businesses or one-on-one consulting, we provide that resource. And it's amazing. The impact is measurable and beautiful.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that the impact of the teaching can be a force multiplier for the lending.
One of the beautiful things about running our type of organization is that unlike traditional finance, we're able to provide a little more hand holding and coaching. Most of our bank partners have concerns around lender liability issues. We do too, but certainly that CDFI designation gives us some added permissions, and it helps us to fundraise too, where we raise money to provide services to businesses that need it.
Do you also provide a network for people that you're working with? Like, oh, you need a fractional C. You don't need a full CFO. You need some help. We know some people or whatever it is. Do you bring the network to bear as well?
That's something that economic developers are always thinking about. How do you create a community? As a parent, I'm always thinking of the same thing, right? I'm raising two awesome kids. How do I create a community around them for their long-term success and well-being? I think that many economic developers approach their everyday work the same way. How do I build community around the business owners so that they can have access to the tools and the resources that will help them be successful long-term?
That's a fascinating concept and not one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, to be honest, that there could be a third party that has an interest in growing the financial success of its clients, or what do you call them, clients?
Sure, clients works. I think we call clients partners. We
Okay.
use a lot of these terms, I would say, pretty intermingly.
Intermingly. I love that word, and I'm glad
I'm not
that
going to
you
get points
used
for that
it.
Scrabble, but
Yeah, intermingly. And I love the idea that there's that unifying party that brings people in and can help on both sides. You get to see a lot of different people try to do business in a lot of different ways. Obviously, a lot of different things that they're doing in business, but just the approach that they bring to it. In your observation over your 20 plus years working in lending, what traits stick out to you that are consistent in the small business owners who figure it out?
yeah, one word sticks out to me, and you mentioned it at the very beginning, and the word is grit. It's a beautiful word, and I don't know that we have a common definition for it when people use it. So let me attempt to give a definition. Grit, people who show up in the face of adversity.
Mm.
On the good days, they're there, but most importantly, on the hard days, on the tough days, on the days that it would be easiest to just pull the covers up and stay in a warm bed. Entrepreneurs with grit, they don't do that. They show up, they lead, they have vision. A line that I've used throughout my whole career is this concept of being humble and hungry. Within my team, when I see an entrepreneur that is growing and coming to us looking for capital, I routinely will ask, are they humble and hungry? When I say humble, I immediately think, are they teachable? When I say hungry, I am giving a nod to the grit. Are they going to work? Do they have a strong work ethic?
The way we define grit at Canny is a determined pursuit of your goals. As a small business co-founder, and I've worked in small business, I've worked in large businesses, the experiences we've had, and I'll be open with you, it's 2 years of Canny. Not everything is roses. We get hard feedback from clients or customers. We fail on things, and there's been times where there's like this lull. It's like, okay, things haven't been going the way we want them to. Who's going to bring the energy that day and lift the other people up? And to my brother's credit, Sean, who's the CEO, serial entrepreneur, he's been here, right? He's done this. He knows what to do in the lull. He's stepping up. He's excited. He's working hard, but he doesn't just do it himself. He has to bring us along.
Yeah.
Right. So I wonder if that's another trait you see in these most successful small business owners, a willingness and an ability to bring the rest of their small team or large team, whatever it is, with them.
I like the use of both willingness and ability here. I think that many people are willing. When someone has that ability, that usually is a measurable component of someone's future success. Yes, they want to, but they have the ability to share that vision, to rally their people, to motivate their people, to come out of that lull and recognize, hey, we were here. Let's identify what brought us there, and let's identify what will take us beyond this lull and keep going. That is a superpower that I wish we would see more often. When you see it, though, it's undeniable.
Yeah, those people. Know it, and it's not necessarily a intelligence or an experience thing. It is often a heart thing. The lull is an emotional lull as much as a product lull or a sales lull.
Yes, it's wonderful when you have a CEO that has a willingness and an ability, but if you can find team leaders, frontline workers that also have that gift, hire them. They'll lead a team, embrace the vision, put on the jersey, and they will be an ambassador of whatever that vision is. Down the road, who knows what happens? Maybe they end up leading the company or being an instrumental player within the core leadership of a company. Yeah, too oftentimes I feel like we think that the only people that can lead are the people at the top. And the reality is you don't need a title to be a leader.
No.
Be that visionary person.
How do you screen for those people, right? What do you look for? And if we can get to that, that's great. But in terms of people not needing a title to be a leader, I've been involved with youth sports forever. I've coached and most recently just finished coaching my seniors in high school. They just graduated. It was really hard to see them go. But what I noticed over time was they would elect their own captains. And invariably, there were a couple of boys who didn't get elected who still everyone looked to. They knew which ones would never quit, which ones would always be lifting people up. You see it in youth sports. Sometimes we wish we'd see it a little more at work. It can be comfortable to say, well, I'm not really a leader. That's his job or that's her job. I just put my head down and do my work. One thing, Bryan, I would love talking about this type of person. Have you had people in your career who have been influential in this way, where their strength of character shaped you, left a mark on you?
I'd be a fool if I didn't start in the home. I'm fortunate to have a world where I'm surrounded by awesome women. I'm very happily married for almost 16 years with my lovely wife, 2 daughters. My 2 daughters are a force to be reckoned with. They love to fight with each other, and at some point they'll probably listen to this podcast and say, Dad, you said publicly that we fight. Siblings do. It happens. But in terms of character, being an example of good, I see it in my kids. I see it in youth.
Funny, I hadn't thought about the reverse character effect, right? The character effect podcast premise of it is that people we interact with who have high character leave a mark on us, and it changes us, and then it's passed down generation to generation. Interesting to think about it flipping the other way. And I think that gets to that whole humble and hungry thing. A parent or a leader of any kind who's humble and hungry takes just as much feedback and learns as much as they can from the people they lead and are responsible for as they do from those who may be responsible for them.
I'm thinking about the context here. At the beginning, we said, hey, I'm in New York City. I'm raising 2 kids in New York City. They were both born here. They're being raised here. There are plenty of opportunities for my kids to not have character, and they do. I'll give you one quick example. Every day last fall, we would walk by this man that was sleeping under scaffolding. We gave my youngest daughter's comforter off her bed. We walked over there. We put it on him. Sundays, my family would go to church. This dates back a couple of years ago. There was a person that was right by the subway stop that we'd get on. She had no shoes. The first person to suggest that we help this woman, we brought her food and we got her shoes. Character is action. My kids have action.
Mm.
Again, in a city where there's lots of opportunities to serve, but plenty of opportunities to get lost, they have chosen the higher path.
Bravo to your kids. That, I believe, comes from an example in the home. They would never have noticed or thought of those things if they didn't have a mom and a dad who taught along the way that we should care for the poor, the weak, and the fatherless, and the widows, and others that Jesus asked us to take care of.
I'm going to take the compliment. Thank you to my wife. That's mostly you, honey. Thank you. But it's the community. It goes back to, do we create a community for business owners? Yeah, they were really trying to. It's the community effect. It takes a tribe, as people say. So it's not just me, it's someone else who I wouldn't even know who to thank. All those really cool people that came in contact with my kids.
So let's shift into the professional side. I want to know if you've had a mentor or a manager or someone along the way who helped shape you with their own style or version of high character leadership.
I think that there were several. I started listing names and I started asking myself, why them? Because my first thought is, oh, that person. And then the connective tissue was, why them? People that I would identify as people of character, people that I know and trust. This word just kept showing up, and it's that they cared, that they were authentic, that they served. All these people cared. They asked genuine questions. Who are you? How are you? They know me. They know my family. They understand what's going on at work. That's powerful. Authentic, they're just them. Sometimes they make mistakes. They're not perfect. Too much of just the raw human nature, I feel like, is lost. I love a good leader who shows up in their authentic self saying, I had a hard day. And this idea of service makes me think of every person who has been a wonderful example to me. They didn't lead in word, they led by doing. They got their hands dirty. They went to work. They weren't apprehensive to be working alongside everyone else when it's time to have a late night or an early morning or an all weekend thing. They were there. They were doing the work.
You said it, character is action. Thank you for pointing us in this line of people who can leave a great effect on others. There has to be a level of genuineness and authenticity. I know, and I won't talk about the person in detail, but a person who has great skill and experience in this area of expertise, such that he should be looked upon as a leader, but he falls short in the authenticity and heart side of it. People listen, but don't follow fully. They reserve a little bit back because they don't quite trust where he's coming from. And I think that's a lesson to us as leaders. Bryan, you must get many applications, potential borrowers who want to access capital. What advice do you have for small businesses beyond just the financial A's, B's, and C's? What else are you looking for?
A line that immediately comes to mind is everything speaks. Yes, I'm going to look at financials, and that includes personal tax returns, business tax returns. I'm going to do a Google search. I'm going to pull some third-party character references. I'm going to pull someone's credit report. These are all just things that are common for any lender. When I say everything speaks, I'm talking about the details of, how do you interact with our team? Do you treat them kindly? Do you act entitled? Do you yell and get upset? Are you condescending? Those are some of the negative things that we look for, but I also look for the opposite of that. Are you kind? Are you cooperative? Are you asking good questions? Are you asking how you can be a part of the process and how to make the process go more smooth? When we ask a question, how do you respond to that? Are you put off by the question? At the end of this call today, I'm going to sit around the same table that I'm at right now, and a bunch of us are going to sit here with a memo that we've all read. We're going to talk about it and discuss as a team, does this credit make sense? Ultimately, the questions my team is asking or probing for answers for with the entrepreneurs with whom we work, they're really ways or opportunities to have the voice of the entrepreneur show up in that credit memo. That context matters, and it's really hard to have a loan officer sell that entrepreneur and their vision unless our front end staff can really see that this person is the person of character, has vision, can rally their team around unlocking some growth opportunity by way of our loan to them.
Have you been in situations where the numbers look great and all of those other pieces of hard data look okay, but your gut feel was just off?
Yeah, it's happened. In some cases, it's just off, and you can't really pinpoint why it's off, but you know that it is intuitively. We routinely say, my spidey sense says something's a foul here. I'm always right. The team's always right. Usually that person ends up being tough to work with long term. From a lending standpoint, you make a loan, and that decision to make a loan is pretty short. And then you've lived with that loan over a period of 5, 7, 10, 25 years. Sometimes that spidey sense in the first couple of weeks of interactions with someone lets you know this is going to be tough. I don't know if this relationship has longevity. And other times you see applications that look really good, but then maybe the person isn't of character and you realize they're actually presenting a second set of books, the detection of fraud, or some of these things that actually do show up in the lending world. It happens.
We track the news for stories about character in business. There was one not too long ago, the Kohl's CEO got hired at the beginning of the year, and within 4 months, he was fired. He had a great background. And what I remember of the story was that he had not disclosed a relationship with a consulting company he awarded a big contract to. He had not disclosed that his romantic interest was requested to be the lead or one of the participants on that team in this contract. Was it stealing things? No. But it was that at that top level, the scrutiny on you is pretty intense. And a misstep like that introduces doubt. If he was willing to lie or cover up on this thing, can we trust him with everything else that we trust him with? And I don't think you have to be a Kohl's CEO for that lesson to hit home. I think it's every one of us.
Once doubt creeps in, it's really hard to exterminate it from all thoughts. It lingers, takes root. I think that's a good example.
I want to turn this inward. Tell me about your efforts to build a culture of character in your team. What advice do you have for people leading smaller teams in whatever industry? What would you tell them that works and that doesn't work?
I keep a note, and Dave, within it, I identify me as a leader, and I am always adding to that. Who am I as a leader? It helps me to live intentionally as a leader, perhaps more importantly to the team that I lead. I'm being really vulnerable in saying this, but this is my grading rubric for myself. I look back at my notes and I say, am I doing that? Am I living up to what I expect? I try to lead by being my most authentic self. I try to lead by being someone that has an insatiable appetite for growth. I own when I make mistakes. I recognize when I'm not feeling like my best self. But in that, I own who I am, who I'm trying to be. When I'm not living up to who I know I'm capable of becoming, I'm also going to own that. And I'm going to openly talk about it. And I'm going to get better.
How do you drive that home in your team? In our experience, the entire population isn't ready. They don't have an insatiable appetite for growth because growth comes at the tip of a sharp sword of information about yourself that you may not like. Many people that we've interacted with or dealt with aren't quite ready for that. How do you bring your team along to the level of ownership that you aspire to?
I have two thoughts. First is every single week, the core leadership team, we hold ourselves accountable to, we'd say is the one thing. What is one thing we're going to work on this week? And we say it openly, we say it publicly, and hold each other accountable to it every single week. And that's just like a very simple way for us to build the muscle memory of, hey, I'm going to put myself on the hook for this thing, and I'm going to report back on, did I own it? Did I complete it?
I'm fascinated by the concept of the one thing. Talk me through what that actually looks like.
In my opinion, there's not enough empowerment of our people to say no to some things. And so when you ultimately decide, I am going to do this, what you're deciding is that you're not going to do those other things. So it builds this muscle memory of what's the top thing. So it helps you prioritize. And then it helps the team feel really comfortable when someone comes up to them and asks, hey, can you do this thing? The common language is, I can, but that's going to be at expense of this one thing. Do you want me to deprioritize my one thing? And so the way our team does it, it's pretty simple. We hold ourselves accountable. We use a very simple Excel spreadsheet. And every single week we put down our one thing. Sometimes that one thing doesn't happen. And so that one thing goes to the next week. And when people can't complete their one thing, people will own it and talk about it. And then they'll say, this week I'm going to finish it. Every once in a while, we all need to rally around one thing as a team. So here's this really big project that we need to do, or this big assignment, or whatever it is, but it's big and I can't do it on my own. If everyone around the room takes a piece of that builds together, you can do a whole lot more really quickly. It's a living, breathing document for our team. We own it. It's fun.
It reminds me of what my beloved and recently passed mother-in-law would always say: many hands make light work. Carla, we love you, miss you. What's your one thing this week? Do you mind sharing?
My one thing this week has nothing to do with work. A friend from Arizona has his son coming to New York. And my one thing is for Jackson to have an epic Friday in New York City. That's my one thing, but it matters. It's important. The second part of my answer doesn't contradict that, but pivots from that. And it's this idea of invitations. As a leader, not everyone's ready. And like you said, sometimes people, when nudged or there's a sharp stick that's probing at them, like, yes, they're going to respond, maybe of necessity. I think the best leaders are really good at always inviting. So if someone doesn't have an insatiable appetite for growth, okay. But I do think that leaders need to have an insatiable appetite to invite people to grow, invite people to look beyond their own limited perspective, invite people to stop always just working in their business and invite them to work on the business or to work on relationships. Leaders invite.
Wow. I did not see that coming. And I love that you went there, because an invitation is not a command.
Those are very different. I tell my kid, go do the dishes. That's met with, I'm not doing the dishes.
I'll say most professional humans that I've interacted with in the United States don't love being commanded to do things. We're grown-ups. It's necessary in some settings, of course. But in the typical American workplace, in this generation, if you command people, they'll probably do it for a while. Then they'll probably feel resentful. And then they'll probably stop engaging, and then they'll probably leave.
Because they have no buy-in.
I think the notion of inviting is such a more compelling approach to growth and leadership than the command and control from the top.
When I think about people in my life that have had greater influence than all of the others, it was because of an invitation. Favorite teacher in the world in high school invited me. My grandpa on my dad's side invited me. These are men that I love and respect. They invited me to be better than I was because they could see I had the potential to respond to the invitation. That's what I think leaders should be good at doing, seeing potential and inviting people to move towards realizing that potential.
An invitation conveys a level of belief in that person that's different from a command. A command is do this because you have to. An invitation is I believe you can do this.
I have had the chance to be with an American Sign Language community in New York City. When I think about inviting in sign language, it's just different. In English, you would just say, come. But in sign language, you're like pulling people in with the language. Even when you say welcome, you're literally like using your hands, pulling people into you. An invitation requires action on the part of both people. When you're inviting someone, you're saying, I think that you're capable of doing this, and I'm extending the hand first. Then it's a little bit of let's do this together versus the command. Go and do. I'm going to sit here, but you go out there and make sure you get me my report by Friday.
That's beautiful. I will say as we wrap up, this concept of character as action and that everything speaks. And then flipping it around to say, as a leader, you must start with your own appetite for growth. And I absolutely love the one thing. And then this last idea of invitation. For all those who are listening, this is gold from Bryan. Bryan does not put himself out there as a management expert. He just puts himself out as a leader who cares.
I thank you for your kind words, and thank you for the chance to be here.
Bryan, thank you for being on the podcast. More importantly, thank you for leading the way you do. Hey, everybody, if you got value out of this, if you want to try the one thing with your own team, do it. It's the character effect. You can make the biggest impact for the people who come after you if you will start learning and doing these high character actions. Bryan, thank you. This is Dave from the Character Effect Podcast. We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. Thank you for tuning in to the Character Effect Podcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. But in the meantime, give us a follow on your favorite podcast platform.